to be a Lair of Darkness list. My original, it's still good. What the hell? Might as well do it. Um, deck. It has really good tributing points. Its monsters are extremely hard to get around if you don't know how to get around them. It's a really fun deck that I decided to try out when I meet up with some of my friends later on, hopefully within the year. I will test this deck list out on them. Um, if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're generous enough, please like. Shall we? So I know people tend to run 3 of this monster, but I run 2 of Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair. Um, I know you would want to run 3. That's what my original list called for. Um, but still, it's still fun. This is still a good deck. I run 2 at the moment because I only have 2, but running 2 makes way for another monster that people tend to overlook and think is not good, which I'll get into later. By effect of Diabolos, it is technically kaiju proof. You cannot use any kaijus against this monster whatsoever. It cannot be tributed. You cannot. My opponent cannot tribute this monster. It cannot. He cannot. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be targeted with card effects, and I can only use each of these effects of Darkest Deal. If a dark monster that I control is tributed for a tribute summon, while he's either in my hand or in my graveyard, I can special summon him, so it's pretty much a good special summon without even trying to tribute for him. Perfectly great. I mean, you can easily tribute, say Erebus, the Underworld Monarch, tribute Erebus, bring out Darkest Diabolos. You have the other Diabolos in your graveyard, special the second Diabolos. You already have your main two main two Diaboloses on the field, which which are essentially kaiju proof, which my god is very great. The special effect, the special summon effect actually helps out big time. Um, the fact that you contribute a dark monster and place one card from your opponent's either on top or bottom of their deck. Well, if you get the card right, you can halt their play tremendously. You can you can literally bone their play if you get the right card to actually place at the bottom or top based on what you want to place. Moving on, this one I know all this monster a lot of people tend to overlook. A lot of people think good. I'm here to tell you that his effects are extremely good. Next we have, of course, Diabolos, King of the Abyss. Oh my gosh, stop right there. Diabolos, King of the Abyss. Perfectly good card. I have no idea why people disregard him. The fact that I cannot. Okay, sure, you cannot special summon. Cannot be a special big whoop, right? Um, though you can tribute summon this card, but the tributes must be Dark Monster. In this deck, of course, there are only 3 light monsters, but once they hit the field, they will be dark monsters if you have the field spell on the field. Um, but this card, I cannot even begin to explain how good this card is. The fact that it cannot be tributed by effects while face up on the field. Also, so if your opponent tries to Stormforth this monster, he cannot. He just can't. There is no way he's going to be able to Stormforth this monster, just like how he cannot Stormforth this card, because it targets, if I remember correctly. By the other effect, once per turn during your opponent's draw phase before their normal draw, you can look at the top card of their deck. Place it either at the top or bottom. Why are people not using this card? Oh my god. The fact that you tribute summon him, you have the power to actually make it possible to actually look at the top card of your opponent's deck each time during their draw phase. Actually switch around their top card. Either leave it on top if you feel it's not good enough, or if you know that they cannot make a play based on their board, or place it at the bottom if you know they can hit off with it big time. This card is just tremendously amazing. Moving on, I run 2 Caius the Mega Monarch. Originally, you would want to run 3. Because of the fact that when it is tribute summon, if it used a tribute, if it used a dark monster, you can target two cards your opponent controls, banish them. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm hoping you're getting a good one. Yeah. Sorry. You can tribute this card. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one tribute summon monster. Okay. If this card is tribute summoned, you can target one card on the field, banish it, and if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. Then, if it was a dark monster, banish all cards with that name from the hand, main deck, extra deck, and graveyard of the player who controlled it. If this card is tribute summoned by tributing a dark monster, add this effect. You can target 2 cards instead. Just you play this card with Lair of Darkness on the field, and you're going up against Buster Bladers, and your opponent has a Buster Blader on his field. Banish all of the Buster Bladers. He cannot even. He will have a hard time recovering for them, even if he has Buster Whelp on the field. It is perfectly. This card is extremely perfect. I recommend running it at 3. I do not have 3, so I've substitute the third one with Caius. You contribute when this card is if this card is tribute summon, you can target one card on the field, banish that target, and if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent if it was a dark monster. Of course, the mega version of this card is extremely better. Um, but yeah, I'm substituting this card with I'm substituting the third Mega Monarch with this one. Moving on, you absolutely want to run 3 of this card. I do not have 3 yet, but when I do, I will let you know as soon as I can. Um, I run 2 at the moment of Erebus, the Underworld Monarch. Erebus, extremely good. You can actually tribute summon this monster by tributing a tribute summon monster. Also, you can send 2 Monarch spell trap cards with different names from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, shuffle one card from your opponent's hand at random, graveyard, or their side of the field into the deck once per turn during either player's main phase. Hold on. During either player's main phase, you can um you can discard one Monarch spell trap card, then target one monster in your graveyard with 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense. Add it to your hand. Extremely good card. I mean, like, it helps you retrieve your monarchs that you sent to the graveyard, that you tributed for the tribute summons. It is extremely great. You will have no problems with it. And yeah, and in fact, you will be able to retrieve this monster if it happens to end up in the graveyard, which helps out even more. Next, the only 3 light monsters you will ever need to is Ether, the Heavenly Monarch. The fact that Edea, sorry. Why did I? Edea, the Heavenly Squire, sorry. I am still asleep. It's still like summer for me because I graduated. Um, Edea, no more special summon. effect, you get to special summon a another monster with 800 attack and 1000 defense in defense position. Comes in handy when using Eidos. Also, with this card's effect, you can, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can retrieve a banished Monarch Spell or Trap card, added to your hand. It is just absolutely fantastic. You always really want to run this, and because this deck, the way I'm running it right now, does not have any link monsters or any extra deck monsters, this monster's effect will come in handy. Because when you special summon a monster in defense with 800 attack and 1000 defense, except for Edea, the Heavenly Squire, you cannot summon anything from your extra deck for the rest of this turn, which this deck really doesn't need an extra deck. The extra deck is actually optional, as in most decks. Um, Now, another card that you're going to be want to run at 3, Eidos, the Underworld Squire. Oh my gosh. Eidos gives you an extra tribute right off the bat. The moment he is normal or special summon, extra tribute summon. Not only that, but you can also, by banishing this card, special summon one, one of your monsters from the graveyard in defense that is 800 attack, that has 800 attack, 1000 defense. Extremely valuable. It is extremely good in every way that I know so far. Only downside at the moment is trying to draw into it first turn when you need it. Same thing with Edea, but we have other ways to get around it. Next, I run 2 Ahrima the Wicked Warden. I need to run one more. I absolutely need to run one more. Only because this deck calls to run 3. I do not have the extra one, but when I do, I will let you guys know. Um, this card is an essential for running at 3. It acts as a terraforming. You can normal summon this card, tribute one dark monster you control, and draw one more card, or you contribute this. It contribute itself and add essentially any monster with 2000 or more defense. This you always want to run this card at 3. Next, I run 1 Duke Sinister. Now, of course, you you will see this in a lot of deck lists. Um, though you will hardly ever I hardly ever see anyone use it. Though what's it called? The fact that you contribute any number of dark monsters and actually gain the this card will gain an extra 500 for each dark monster you tribute. Not only that, but when he is okay, as you can when it's first summon, you can target and add one level 5 or higher dark monster. Comes in handy when trying to add Diabolos back or the Diabolos time. Next, grepher, only because he's kind of like an extra foolish burial. The fact that you can actually special summon this card from your hand by discarding one level 5 or higher dark monster. You can discard one dark monster and send one dark monster from your deck to your grave. Okay, yeah, to some people it may not sound really good, but you hit off the right plays. With this card, you can easily spam your field with Diabolos and other cards, which will help out tremendously. Absolutely, you don't run him in this deck, but if you want to, go for it. It's all up to you. Next, for draw power, I run 3 Allure of Darknesses. The essential, yes, draw 2, banish 1 dark monster. You don't have a dark monster in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. So if you cannot draw a dark monster on the next turn, I'm gonna give you a hint of advice. Play your cards before you activate this card. That is an essential thing to do. Absolutely fantastic card for drawing. There's another card that I'm supposed to run for. That you're supposed to run for draw power, but I don't have it, so I use another card for searching. But that will be in a bit. Next card is the field spell, Lair of Darkness. You absolutely want to run 3 of him. I only have 2, so I'm running 2. So to fill in for that third, I'm running a terraforming. Now the fact that this one makes all monsters on the field become dark monsters. Not only that, but every time a monster would be tributed on the player's field who controlled the monster that was tributed by this card's effect, that person actually has that person gets a token. It affects both sides of the board, but that you only gain that token during the end phase, which is good if you're trying to get the great tokens. Now, as I was saying before, okay, to be honest, you're gonna want to run 3 of trade-in. I do not have trade-in. I used to have 3 of it, but I traded it off, and now I need it again. So, what I'm substituting for trade-in for is 3 Creeping Darkness. Creeping Darkness, if you do not have Ahrima the turn that you need him, discard, banish 2 dark monsters from your graveyard, search out and add a level 4 dark monster to your hand, from your deck to your hand, is absolutely perfect for that occasion. As I said before, banish 2 dark monsters from your graveyard, add 1 level 4 dark monster from your deck to your hand. Extremely good when trying to bring out Ahrima or any of the other level 4 dark monsters that you run if you're running a fun version of this deck, or if you're going to run the competitive version, or as I like to call it, competitive. Um, yeah, you would want to run trade in. You would have to change this deck up a bit. Next, you run Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial, you absolutely want to run one of, because you need to get your Darkest Diabolos into the graveyard as soon as possible. And of course, you're probably going to wonder, well, why the hell are you going to want to have your strongest monster in your graveyard? If you actually recall, I actually did mention once you tribute a monster on your field, you can special summon Dio- Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, from either your graveyard or your hand, which makes for perfect circumstances. Next, one mainly Edea, the heavenly Squire. You absolutely want to get Edea out as soon as possible, so you can actually bust out Eidos, tribute for another monster. Extremely vital to this deck. You always need to see this card in your well, in your plays. You always want to have this card there. Next, three. You run 3 of Return of the Monarchs. Sorry, I'm like I had a brain fart there. Only due to the fact that like you can actually use it for Erebus material, like Erebus's effects material, or you can actually use it to actually add your monarchs that you need on the field that you need to. You can add those monarchs to your hand by this one's effect once you tribute summon, which is perfect for this deck because you always want to have um, your Caius summoned over and over and over again to actually to shit to actually mortify your opponent's plays. Just bone them in every way possible. Keep them banishing their decks. Next, I run one Pantheism of the Monarchs, one Monarchs Stormforth, and of course, one Frost Blast of the Monarch. Frost Blast of the Monarch, only for popping my opponent's board when I need to. Extremely good. I can banish it and one other Monarch Spell or Trap card if I recall correctly. Yes. Sorry. Target one set card on the field and destroy it, which comes in handy. Pantheism Spell or Trap card from your hand to the graveyard. Draw two. It from your graveyard, and of course reveal three cards, three Monarch Spell Trap cards with different names to your three Monarch Spell Trap cards from your deck, and force your opponent to let you add one to your hand. The rest gets shuffled. Of course, this card is recyclable with, as you know, other card effects that you've seen before. And Stormforth of the Monarchs, only to tribute my opponent's monster when need be. And that's pretty much all I use it for. So like I need to tribute my opponent's monster to tribute summon my monster. No problem. Effect, tribute, summon. I do believe that's how it works. If you actually come back how that card works, please let me know. I greatly need your opinion. Either way, I run Soul Charge because you obviously want to have your opponent like on the run. You always want to have your strongest monsters on the field. So if all your strongest, so say your opponent dark holes the field and leaves you vulnerable, also him too, and he can't play anything or he plays something. Well, obviously your next turn, say you have this card in your hand, activated, bring back your strongest monsters. Your opponent is screwed. Of course, yes, you pay 1,000 life points for each monster special summoned by its effect. Also, conduct your battle phase. It's a risk you're willing to take, but obviously great to run. Next, you run Deck Devastation Virus, only because you want to completely wipe your opponent from use of monsters. Say he's running a deck, buy out any of the you don't have last card so for sorry is 3 Prime Monarch. Of course, you already know how it works. If you saw my other video on Monarchs, um, you actually shuffle two Monarchs spell or trap cards with different names from your back into the deck. Oh, sorry, two Monarch spell trap cards. Doesn't have to be with different names from your graveyard into the deck. Draw one. Also, if it gets sent to the graveyard, if this card is in the graveyard, you can actually banish one other Monarch spell or trap card. Special summon this card as a normal monster, fairy type, light, level 5, 1000 attack and 2400 defense. If this card is not treated as a trap card anymore, you can only use this effect of Prime Monarch once per turn. Obviously, you obviously want to run this card at 3. If you run it at any other number, um, do leave a comment below. Um, Other than that, that's pretty much all. Well, there you have it, guys. That was my deck list. If you have any questions, or if you have um, if you have any questions or any suggestions on anything that you want me to record, Yu-Gi-Oh related, of course, please please leave a comment down below, or you can look me up on Facebook at Angel Cavazos, which is my Facebook name, technically my real name at the same time. Go ahead, shoot me a friend request, and of course, leave me a message saying what deck you want me to try to make. I will try to make it as best as I can. Um, I'll see you guys back here on Friday.